Have you already decided you're going to homeschool, or are you still kind of thinking about it? Or have you been doing it for years? If you've been doing it for years, I'd love to hear from you on all of your experience. If you're not sure, I'd love to hear what you're thinking about, what your concerns are, what's holding you back, and what you're looking forward to. The one thing I wanted to talk about is that I've noticed a tendency for some parents who decide they want to homeschool to try to make their home a school. And that is kind of throwing away some of the benefits of homeschooling. So I would definitely recommend thinking carefully about what should be kept and what should not be kept. Now, I would definitely encourage you to keep the idea of a specific workspace, even if it's just like I put this mat out when it's time to focus on this, or we get this box down and now it's time to work. Anything that's kind of like a mental trigger that now we're going to be working in this space. I also definitely recommend and encourage some kind of a schedule. It doesn't be super strict, but just a general idea of when you're working on things. I would not actually encourage school to only be like 2 hours in the morning and then we're done. I would prefer about 20 to 40, depending on the age, 20, 45 minutes in the morning, a little bit in the afternoon, a little bit in the evening. If you kind of sprinkle it throughout the day, you're actually going to have a better ability for your child to really concentrate and focus because they're only working for a tiny bit of time. But then you get to spiral and review. So before the whole day goes by and now it's the next day and I don't remember what I learned yesterday, it's like it's only been a few hours and they're just practicing maybe another 2 math problems or 1 that you're just talking about for 5 minutes, whatever. It doesn't have to be a lot, but just a little bit more frequently is better. So I would actually prefer to see 5 minutes of math 3 times a day than 20 minutes of math once a day, which 20 minutes of math would be not that much and would be great for a lot of kids. But if you just small chunks throughout the day are going to be more powerful for their brain to actually learn. They're going to have time for their brain to kind of rest, reset, regulate, and come back. If you're trying to do like 2 hours worth of homeschool all at the same time, it's going to get a little bit difficult. But with that, I do want to encourage you to keep in mind your specific child. Is your child a morning person? No? Then don't make them do homeschooling, dragging them out of bed and saying, it's time to... Hopefully you aren't going to do that anyway. But keep in mind what works best for them. When are they most curious and interested? What helps to get them curious and interested? Some kids are ready to start exploring the world as soon as they roll out of bed. Other kids better be fed first. Some kids, after you feed them, they start to get kind of groggy and they can't think anymore. So really think carefully about your child, what's working, and if you haven't looked at it, start looking at it and think about what might work and if you should change something about the schedule, whether you should eat first or do school first, whether you should let your child stay up a little bit later because you can, and let them sleep in a little bit in the morning because they're really more of an afternoon person, especially as children get older. Like, they've shown that teenagers in general, most teenagers, do better staying up later and sleeping in. Their biological clocks are just different, and they do better working a little bit later in the day. Younger children tend to be more morning people and can do work a little bit earlier in the day. So keep that in mind. You know, it's going to be a constant change. Constantly be analyzing what works well for your specific child and keep it flexible. Obviously, you're also going to have days whenever lockdown really officially truly ends. Maybe it has where you're at or things are different. But when it's safe and you can go out and do some activities, right now you probably can still go for hikes and things, which might be nice. So those days, learning's going to look a little different. But you might keep in mind while you're out hiking, oh, I need to work on this. Let's see if I can find some opportunities to work on that. And it might just hit you automatically. Just kind of keep it in mind, always looking for things to learn. So keep keep the flexible scheduling based on your child's individual needs and those short bursts of learning. Those are the two things I really want to focus on in terms of scheduling, and the cyclical review throughout the day. It's actually 3 things. The other huge thing that you better be trying to do is, you know your child, and if you don't, start talking to them. Now I know you know your kid. What do they like? What are they interested in? Use that, right? Don't just buy a curriculum and try to follow the curriculum, and then it becomes like pulling teeth to get your child to learn. Whereas if we just focus on what are they most interested in, you might really get some really good learning. And I think it's far more important that we follow what they're interested in and then see what we can get to kind of work within that in terms of grade level curriculum stuff, than trying to be like, oh, no, you can't learn about Native Americans this year because you're going to do that next year. That would be silly, right? Like, it does, like, especially the history and science stuff. Learn it all the time. So follow your child's interests, whatever book they're interested in. If it's 3 grade levels beyond where they're currently reading at, get it anyway. Read it to them, or let them read little bits of it while you read it to them, or maybe they'll surprise you and they'll be able to read a lot of it because they're so interested and willing to try. Definitely don't make it like a punishment thing. Please don't ever be like, you said you wanted this book, so you have to read this book. No, they're interested, read it to them. They're still going to get so much out of it when you read to them. They don't have to be the ones that actually read in order to learn. They're working on all that comprehension even if you're the one reading it to them. So, and then the other huge ones that you have the benefit of doing that's a little bit trickier in a traditional school setting is movement, exercise all day long, right? You can build that into their day, especially depending on who your child is. They might think a lot better, a lot of kids do, after they've had a lot of like intense exercise. So you can like do some fun dance party or playing soccer outside or whatever. Play intensely, exercise, move, then sit them down to do some work. Or maybe you have a snack and then do some work. Whatever makes sense. Maybe you're having a snack while doing work. What works best for your kid? You have the flexibility, right? Use it. And the other thing I just wanted to bring in with that is keep in mind diet. I'm not a dietitian. I don't know all of it. I've read some things. You can read them too. So I don't want to give specific advice, but I have noticed, less so with homeschool parents, that some parents don't keep that in mind, that it impacts your child's learning. What they're eating impacts their learning. So look into it. Keep it in mind. Pay attention to how certain foods might affect their ability to learn, and I'll leave it there. So we talked about how scheduling can be flexible. You can have those short learning sessions all day long, cyclically reviewing all day, every day, whether you're out on an adventure or you're at home, focusing a lot on your child's interests and moving to get those brain cells activating. So good for your brain to be out moving. I hope that was helpful, and I will see you again next week.